Well, hello everybody, and sorry about the little pause there. We had a button at live stream that was not doing what you meant to do when you press on it. Naughty, naughty live stream. Anyway, thought about it for a couple of minutes, and finally it allowed me to cue myself and, of course, the whole team that are here with us. So, welcome to yet another edition of the Inworld Review. We're broadcasting to you live from Chilbo in Second Life, and we're brought to you in association with AView TV. And what a week it's been. Being midsummer, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, in some ways it has been quite quiet on the news front, but that hasn't stopped us from having a bit of personal news. I found that we think some mischievous workmen in the street managed to cut through my fiber optics and put me offline for 2.5 days, from Monday to Wednesday evening. But we are safely back now. But it meant I had a lot of catching up to do, as it's the way of these things. And Tara will probably tell you about her adventures in a minute too, which we thought we were actually going to have a cardboard cutout of Tara on this show, but things have improved in the last few minutes. Shall we say. Anyway, for those of you watching live, you've also just seen a few little clips. The latest Dratster World Builders clip features none other than our old friend Editorial Clarity. Back when we did this as a webcam show, you may have actually, if you remember that far back, or indeed watched us back then, you may well be familiar with him in the old days. He also, at one point, did a daily webcam broadcast of news. Very industrious fellow. Anyway, he was talking to Dratster about, well, himself, of course, but also his sort of design sort of activities now. After that, you saw a very, very brief clip just before we came on air, which wasn't Lauren live. It appeared to be a sort of comedy show on a stage with avatars around it, and it was just a very short clip we got. But believe it or not, that happened inside High Fidelity, Philip Rosedale's new platform. The avatars look a bit early Second Life-ish, and it was a long view, so you couldn't actually see the facial movements that we saw on the clip last week, where somebody was miming, I think it was Chris Collins, miming to Freddie Mercury and Queen, which really showed the face movements. But that actually was quite interesting. I mean, there were name tags that reminded you of the Second Life, of Second Life now, actually. So we just hide them. The avatars are a bit more primitive in their costumes and stuff like that, but clearly they had a stage there, they had somebody making jokes on the stage, and they had an audience. And I thought, hello, how long now before we can do television in high fidelity? Nice little sign there. Nice to see that coming up. Maybe they'll just take over broadcasting their own programs and don't want us, but that's another matter entirely. So to the sort of general news. Now we're going to be joined in about half an hour by Saffia Widdershins. She'll be joining us for a short while, just to bring us up to date on the relaunch of Print Perfect and the final season episode, at least, of Designing Worlds and a few other things in World. The other things I showed just before we came out was a film from the Tinies, who were holding a little festival there with some jamming along with some music. Always lovely to see them. And another clip, very short, of a concert which was part of Jam for Jeans. And I will actually, if I can, move straight into a segue with that one, because I do have... Yes, here we are. I have found the clip. It's the webpage, rather. It's open. Article on the SL Inquirer, really. Jam for Jeans are actually celebrating their 21st birthday, which, if you're any good at maths, you will realise that's 10 years longer than Second Life has been around, because the Jam for Jeans charity, as it were, has been going longer than Second Life. The Second Life thing is just one part of it. I will simply grab the link here, do a quick copy, and I paste it into our back channel, so ultimately it might find its way to the channel. This is the article at SL Inquirer. Just Sunday, the 3rd of August, which is today, has got quite a lot of stuff going on. It started at about the same time as we've just gone on air, in fact, but it does go on till about 9 o'clock tonight. And I think there's other events coming up as well. It's in aid of Children's Medical Research Institute. And if my little scroll button works, I can tell you how much they've raised so far, which is quite... they've turned 21 this year. And so far, and I suspect this is actually a total over the years, but they've raised 80 million US dollars. 80 million. That is a lot. I know it's 21 years, but it still counts as a lot to investigate and research childhood diseases and things. So a little plug for that, and you saw the video before we came on air. Right, okay, I have some other highlights here. I've actually got my Inworld links open too, in anticipation of Saffia. In our pay reports that the latest University of Western Australia EPIC, which we've announced before, Transcending Borders, no signs of any machinima for that yet, which I'll be one of the judges on, in fact. I'm honoured to be. But some of the first art 3D art entries for that contest are actually already on display over at the University of Western Australia. And you can get a little bit more of that from the next link I'm pasting into the traveling chat window. Right, I'll close these one by one. Okay, this is all Inworld Second Life, so I'll leave that for a minute. Now, our friend Maria may actually talk about this later, but our friend Dave Burden from Dayton, up in the Midlands here in the UK, actually wrote a little editorial for Maria's blog during the week, talking about the 5 key differences between virtual worlds and virtual reality. And I will just copy the link in here, even though it's Maria's blog, and you're probably going to see it about a couple of hundred times before the end of the show. But a nice little article there. And it is actually a very pertinent point, because a lot of the hype going on at the moment, of course, is about VR, virtual reality. And virtual worlds are just one aspect of virtual reality. Maria's also got a post on beating the summer heat with cool August events, but we'll wait till we're talking before we go through them. Business Insider. Again, I'll get the link for you. I don't know whether it's a .com or whatever, but here cometh the link. Forget Google Glass. These smart glasses put a virtual tablet in front of your face. Now, there's just too much happening on this front from Google Cardboard onwards. But this is a little piece on a startup called Saffia Labs, and their headset. It doesn't really tell you much. It's quite a short article, but as far as I know, it's not a headset we've sort of covered yet. So you might want to read that. Did I put the link to that one in? I'm not sure I did. Hang on. I've certainly copied it. Did I paste it? No, it's on this. I've got another copy of... I don't think it wants to copy.
Yeah, you just paste... Okay.
Okay, I'm going to try it again. City website doesn't want us to copy their address. Oh, there. Okay. It's done.
Nope.
Well, this is just too dull for words. Okay. Well, this if you want to look up businessinsider.com, you might find it. So I'll leave it open. I can try and get it later. Silly website.
Well, I have a few things to say. Yeah, I have a few things to say about that. I don't have the link either, but I can direct people another route.
Okay. Fair enough. Right. Now, this one's kind of interesting. This took me by complete surprise, although I did actually vaguely think I had heard about it before. Maybe it's my keyboard that's up the creek, actually. Headlong Co. UK. Right, copy. Paste. Yes, yes. Oh, nice, nice. It's gone. Right, this is an article about something called the Netherrealm. Now, the Netherrealm is actually a theatrical performance that is happening here in London at, I think it's the Royal Court Theatre. Pretty sure it is. I wish they wouldn't use this straight. Yes, the Royal Court Theatre, which is down in Chelsea here. But what I didn't know is that there is a virtual world that's been built in OpenSim that is actually part of the theatre performance, or an annex to the theatre performance, if you are. The artist behind the set designs and everything else basically has created an OpenSim installation, and visitors to the theatre can look through sort of doorways into the virtual environment. As part of the sort of experience around the theatre play itself.
Do they have big screens?
Well, from what I don't know. I haven't been down there actually. It might be an idea for me to trot down there, but
yeah,
I got the impression. I actually followed a link from this post, and I did see a photograph which actually did look like a doorway. So it was almost as if they'd put a big LCD screen into the frame of a door.
Nice.
And people sort of saw the virtual world through this physical door that had been built to contain the screen. That's the impression I got, but I'm only judging by photographs I saw. But I love this mixing of media stuff, and
absolutely,
theatre and everything else, and it looks suitably surreal, should we say that? Anyway, you can all follow the link if you're interested there. Right, the Business Insider story, very good. I've just been asked what the title is. It's actually, the article is Forget Google.
And I will talk about that.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I heard you, Tara. I'm just being asked for the actual title of the thing. But sorry, I'll leave it to Tara, because if I try to hijack her bit. Okay, you're throwing me completely. This is meant to be a professional show. I'm following my script.
There's two different Business Insider stories, right? There's one about Second Life, and there's one about the headset.
Yeah,
it's a separate thing, right?
Yeah, the one about Second Life we'll broach on a little bit later when we're talking.
Talk about, right?
Right.
Yeah. This is the
headset I don't know about.
Oh no, it's the headset one I'm talking about. It's a different.
I'm interested in the headset.
Sorry,
I'm interested in the headset one. So I'm more than happy to chime in on the Second Life one. But the headset one is obviously headsets. That's me.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. Right, I'm going to have one more go at copying the link for that because I'm not sure it's actually the same Business Insider either. Now, it keeps pasting your address in. You haven't hijacked this website, have you, Maria? Okay, the article, I can't, for some reason, it won't let me copy the webpage, but the article, it's in a title called Business Insider. It's called Forget Google Glass. These smart glasses put a virtual tablet in front of your face. And as I said, it's about a startup called Aether Labs. That's ATHEER, who are the purveyors of one such device. And I must say, they look quite neat. They actually look like a very big pair of shades. They're quite stylish. If they weren't so stylish, I'd accuse them of being a relic from early Elton John era. But they look quite presentable to me. So.
I found it, and I just posted the link.
Oh, very good. Right. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So yes, indeed, there has been some talk in Second Life and stuff about another Business Insider or a site which has had an article somewhat saying we're a post-virtual apocalypse or something. But yes, that's a whole different ball game. There's some controversy over that we'll get to later.
A lot of.
I know. But before she interrupts again, I'm going to throw this over to Tara so she can tell us all about it. Over to you, Tara.
Thank you, Mel. If this had been a different week and I had been about my business a little more normally, I would have a little more news. But this is one of the few real news items this week for me, so I really hate to have my thunder stolen because then I have nothing to say. Anyway, greetings from the
Plus, you're
Pacific
crash,
Northwest.
Right?
Yes, and in the spirit of things, I think this was the week for the revenge of the mechanics of the hardware. My PC, somewhat over 5 years old, decided it was time for it to bite the big one this week. And the PC I use for Second Life, even though my much preferred platform is a Mac, Second Life just runs better on a PC. That's long been true, and especially from the point when I got that particular PC and I optimized it for Second Life performance. Anyway, but also in the scheme of things, my Mac has been on the verge of a replacement, and it has not been very happy with Second Life graphics demands, as near as I can determine, and has been prone to causing my entire Mac to lock up, forcing me to do a hard force quit, which is a very unusual thing to have to do on a Mac at all. And when that happens, that means I have to crash the machine, and it takes 10 minutes to get back. So I wasn't even convinced I was going to be able to get my avatar in and park, although I've fiddled and I've dialed everything down and I've done all kinds of things. Anyway, but in the spirit of things, some of you may recall here, maybe 6 months or so back, that there was kind of a fun little meme that got going for a while involving flat Rodvik, which was a flat prim of Rodvik Linden that appeared in various places, including putting in an appearance of several of them on this show. Well, I've created a flat Tara, and I trust that Petlove will give you a little shot of flat Tara, who is kind of waiting in the wings should it become necessary for me to bail.
I still think you should put her in a seat so I don't have to travel all the way over here every time you talk.
All the way over there and back, yeah, well. Anyhow.
It's okay.
So the good news is the new Mac arrives on Wednesday. The new PC will be sometime probably the week following. It seems that HP takes longer to build customized machines than Apple does. Anyhow, well, the Business Insider article, the full name of the article regarding Second Life is Second Life has devolved into a post-apocalyptic virtual world, and the weirdest thing is how many people still use it, end quote. The author of this gem of an article has been taken to task by numerous people, what I found most amusing in reading through the long thread of comments on the actual article itself was the fact that there was clearly at least one, if not two, trolls who were having a great time posting basically troll kinds of comments into those threads. And the same troll, at least one of them was also turned up in Hamlet's blog, and it was Hamlet who drew particular attention to this silly article in Business Insider. And if I did a little poking around, the author of this article, while having the lofty title of Senior West Coast Editor, is awfully fond of words like awesome, and and other things. And I think my very favorite comment was one made in Hamlet's blog about the article from Marianne McCann, who commented. Where did it go? Oh, phooey, I lost it. Well, anyway, her comment was, troll bait, gotta love it. or clickbait, because the title is clearly clickbait. Those who aren't familiar with that term, it's writing headlines or titles for things to actively encourage people to click on the link. And so there's various... And Hamlet's good at it too, yeah. But it's a web-wide phenomenon. But anyway, the Business Insider article is well worth reading. And Hamlet was anyway. I'll let you read Hamlet's column and read the article. Hamlet's article will get you to the Business Insider article, and both are worth.
It was, I mean, a lot. The immediate reaction to that article was very outraged, with Second Lifers. But it's quite interesting that in the last couple of days, and try as I might, I can't find them here in my Twitter stream anywhere. But at least 2 blogs with a bit of thought, including Marion McCann, actually, and I forget who the other blog was, actually wrote secondary pieces about it, saying that after consideration, it did actually raise some interesting points. So yes, I think it's well worth reading their take on it, even if you disagree.
Yeah, well, I think the point taken from the article is that getting into Second Life as a quote new user is still difficult.
Yeah.
Wait till you see my movie on that. I'm going to be making. I have my own little sarcastic take on that exercise.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the learning curve. Getting in is.
It's not even about the learning curve. It's like what you get provided with as your first opportunities to see the world. It's
and why can't I walk along that progress bar?
Do you really want to know, Mal? Right now?
No, I'll leave it.
Can we wait on that one?
I'll leave it as an open.
Yeah,
that's an open question.
Yeah, that's kind of a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
No offense.
The article that point was very well taken. But anyway, onward to other things. It was interesting, also from Hamlet's blog. Philip Rosedale apparently had a little chat with Hamlet and commented on market adoption of virtual reality headsets. And Philip said something along the lines of, the adoption period for a widely desired inexpensive technology like smartphones to reach saturation, i.e. 1 billion plus, seems to now be at about 7 years. So the ramp will be between now and about 2021 for virtual reality headsets. That's Philip Rosedale's opinion. You can decide if he's, you can ask what he's been smoking.
That sounds about right. No, that sounds about right, because by the time they're really refined to where they're suitable and, for a large number of people and cheap enough for a large number of people, you know what I mean? Just really functional and available. Maybe 5. What do you think, Tara, at the least?
I think you need to start the countdown when you actually have a usable device, and right now we have half a device. The headset itself, we don't have the input mechanism to work with it. We can't use mouse and keyboard because you can't see them. The omnidirectional treadmills at $700 a pop are not a practical use.
Yeah.
Well, they're not a practical in any way, sense, or form. The guns that people are using are nice for games. They're useless for work.
Yeah.
So we're maybe Kinect, maybe something gesture based.
Minecraft.
We don't have that yet. So we have half a working system. Yeah. Once we have a working system, I think that's when you start the clock.
And actually, on that point, I didn't actually mention it when when we were getting all flustered about the other Business Insider article about the glasses. But that startup company has actually been reviewing what's going on, and the glasses they're making, interestingly, they are not targeting gamers; they're targeting the enterprise with the 3D glasses. And you look at them, and you can see them being worn in offices. This is the problem with. Things like Oculus, I mean, until it is something that people can carry around like a mobile phone, the ubiquitous nature of it is not going to take off. It's going to be on the back of somebody's chair who plays games or is really into that kind of thing.
They're going to have to be bifocals. You're going to still have to be able to see reality, but yet still have a computer screen.
But there was a lovely piece, and I'll mention it now because I'll forget it because it's not in my feed. It might be in my futurist column somewhere. But there was some lovely technology that was announced this week. I'm one of these people who has to wear reading glasses these days for books. Well, even to do anything really, to be honest. But I say, my workflow is all done most of the day via the iPad, and I sit there, Lido, in fact, with reading glasses on. But apparently they're developing screen technology now that will adjust to your eyesight in such a way that you will no longer need reading glasses.
Being calibrated to your
it can
vision.
calibrate. It involves a secondary layer on top of the screen, which apparently is fairly cost effective. But basically, it's like a lens that focuses the screen for you according to what your eyesight needs. And
cool.
it'd be great. It just means that people who need glasses to read books now will no longer need them if they're reading them electronically. And just little things like that. I can see that becoming commonplace.
Sorry. Oops.
That's an interesting concept, but the thing that immediately occurs to me is that's fine if the vision problem is what you have now, what anybody after 50 has, or after 40, and that's presbyopia, where you can't get your eye to focus. But what that doesn't address is little things like astigmatism, where your lens is wobbly, and so how well you can focus, it depends in part upon what you're looking at.
Sure. I mean, I'm just thinking, it's probably not a universal solution, but just the fact that it can now be done just seems.
That's very interesting.
It may have been a lot of this stuff I read Ray Kurzweil's blog, or the feed I get from him every day, all this stuff. So it may well have been there. I found it.
Yes. Well, onward
and upward.
Yes.
Or downward.
And upward. Well, anyway, a reminder, just in the event category, mentioned last week that the second round of the productions of Paradise Lost are underway. And they do have tickets available. For those of you who want to abandon us, next Sunday they do have some tickets available still for next Sunday's performance and beyond that, but a week from today. So if you want to miss our show, then be that way. But seeing Paradise Lost is definitely worth the ticket price.
And we're always available in replay. Same with Hypergrid Safari. There's now a Sunday one. It collides with the shows.
Yeah, well, it's something you have to. A replay is not an option. You really have to see it in person.
No, replay our show.
Our show is available in replay. This is true. Yes.
All our archives are available for instant replay on demand at slotis.com. Anytime, anywhere, any place, any device.
Okay, see you next week. Only kidding.
Well, speaking of next Sunday, the Eat Your Vegetables segment this week is sparse to non-existent. That's the segment where I talk about some of the geeky stuff going on at the lab. The one item is the Firestorm. There's a Firestorm release that's due next Sunday. However, the lab has requested or is considering asking the Firestorm team to delay the release until later in the following week to avoid a possible conflict with a physical get-together of the Second Life development team. So, truth is stranger than fiction. RL stuff happened. For the SL development team. Anyway, it is. What was noteworthy to me is that it sounds like we are on the verge of a Firestorm release. So stay tuned for those who are Firestorm fans. Speaking of delays and schedule changes, this from the official Linden Lab blog, the new policy for skill gaming and the application process on all that. They have postponed the implementation date to September 1st instead of August 1st. Apparently, from the blog, they had a higher response rate of people interested in hosting such games and or adapting games, and so they want to give people time to get the applications in and for them to review them. So, if that's you, check the official Second Life blog for that.
I wonder if dressing my avatar correctly could be considered a skill game. Can I submit an application for that?
I swear that those exercises are skill games.
Honestly, Second Life is a skill game.
So this is the new attempt to bring gambling back, right?
Oh yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. It's been back since 2011. Really, they're just making it official now.
They're making it official and
in a new way they can get some more money out of it.
Well,
which is only appropriate.
I'm sure also so they can stay in the good graces
That's
of
correct, absolutely.
Of appropriate government agencies under which they are obliged to stay.
Of course, and of course, that's the right way to handle it. And kudos to them for making the effort.
Yeah, I think it's, definition of gambling is games of financial risk and stuff like that, whereas things that actually involve skill somehow are not really construed as gamble.
It's like, how do you skillfully roll those dice and get the dice that you want?
Yeah, but then you're getting into other territory. And actually, while we're on finance, something did come up. I don't know whether Maria noticed this, but I read it, and again, it hasn't appeared on my feed on this machine at the moment, though I know I posted it. There seems to be a bit of furore in World about an Australian resident who apparently tried to draw some money out of his Linden pool at Linden Labs. And Linden Labs not only took their commission on the exchange rate, as it were, but they then deducted 30% income tax, even though he's an Australian resident and doesn't pay American tax. And apparently there's some increasing instances where Linden is being compelled, because it's money earned in the United States or on United States servers, they're actually deducting income tax from user withdrawals, even if the actual user is not in the United States. So this could be another minefield ready to pop up.
There was another article about this. A creator of a security HUD of some kind, security system of some kind, refused to sign the form and lost access to his account. So there was a discussion about it on SL Universe, and an article about it. It was a Second Life issue, so I didn't bring it up. I don't have the link to it, but I'm sure one of you, if you Google it, you can find it. The problem is twofold. On the one hand, if you get a job in the United States and you work here and you make money here, then regardless of your citizenship, you have to pay taxes on the work that you do here. Illegal immigrants pay a lot of taxes in the United States. The conservatives forget this, but they actually do pay taxes. And the taxes pay for all the infrastructure that makes the American economy possible, that makes Second Life possible, and so forth. But it also pays for stuff maybe people don't like as much, like our military or, our spying and so forth. So I understand that part of it. Many countries have tax treaties with the United States, but at the end of the day, you do have to pay taxes on your income in one way or another. So that part of it is clear, and that should be, maybe you don't agree with it, but making money from a company that's based in the United States, Second Life, you have to pay into the pot a little bit.
I don't
understand why they suspended that account, because as long as you keep your money in Second Life and you don't cash out, you're not. It's a fictional currency. It's a game token, quote unquote. It's not real money. I think that's wrong. I think eventually the law will change about that. But right now they're still kind of skirting the edge of an actual currency. As long as all your money is made in the United States and you don't cash out, you don't cash out of Second Life, then I don't see why they had to suspend his account.
No, that seems very weird.
Part seems very, very bizarre. And maybe they're thinking that, if we keep his account, he's just going to get around the limits by selling the money in World to a friend, who the friend cashes out and, gives him the money.
Did he try to cash out? Do we know that he did or didn't try to cash the money out?
No, he said
when
he's
they
a
shut
merchant,
him down,
and that they're forcing all merchants to file these forms, and that he refused to.
I see.
It's a very dodgy situation. If I'm in the States, especially for any given period of time, and I have money, then it is subject to U.S. tax. Which is fair enough, but if I go on a business visa and actually just do business, which is international, and then I come home and whatever, it doesn't qualify that way. But also, if I do. Suddenly, back where it last occurred to me, where if I did earn money in the States and was taxed there, it wasn't actually taxable in the UK. There were some very strange laws about. Back when I was young, I knew people who would work outside the UK for 6 months of the year, because although they would be taxed where they were working, because they worked less than 6 months in the UK, they were in a totally different tax bracket, which was to their advantage. But to me, it's going to be a real dilemma in the virtual worlds as international platforms. You can't, if anybody who earns money in Second Life, because it's American service, is to be considered to be working and profiting in the United States, then there has to be, I can't actually draw money out of Second Life, have it taxed by America, and then have it taxed by the UK taxman.
Well, that's where your tax treaties come in. If you have tax treaties, you fill out I do this because I run a company where we have a lot of international payments, so we're dealing with this all the time. You have to file a W-8BN. There's a whole bunch of qualifications. If you are paying taxes on that income in your own country, as a general rule, depending on what country you are and so forth, you may not have to. So when I was running a company out of Hong Kong, my clients were all in the United States. But my company was incorporated in Hong Kong. I was able to file a W-8BN and have no taxes in the United States, which was wonderful. But if you have an individual who is not incorporated overseas and who's not paying taxes over there on income, you have to pay it somewhere along the way.
I think that's we'll come back to this later, I think, because we've now been joined by Saffia. But I think that is the issue. For an average Second Life user, who 50% of them at least are not in the United States, the thought that they're going to have to pay American tax and then maybe pay local taxes as well is clearly, it's figuring out the treaties and all that stuff is going to be a lot of extra work that's going to put them off. But we'll come back to that, I think, in a minute. If Tara, had you was there anything else from you before I move?
Oh yeah, well, and I was just going to comment. Without there's some facts that I haven't read the article. I don't know what the person is asserting, but the other thing that comes to mind is that there's probably some dollar limit amount. It's like for if you're self-employed, if a company is paying an individual money, if it gets above $400 in a year, then they're supposed to file a 1099 with the U.S. government, which then the individual is obliged to report that income on their income tax. And so I'm wondering if there's a dollar amount, a U.S. dollar amount, that is involved in whatever this person was trying to cash out. So anyhow, no, the only other thing I was going to point out was also from Hamlet's blog, an interesting discussion going on around the subject of there's been all this discussion about what's in store for Second Life and Second Life 2 and stuff, but the question is, why do we stay? In other words, people who are in Second Life and sticking to Second Life, why do we stay? And it's an interesting read to read the thread there, and the two things that really stand out are community connections, people connections, and creativity. And without doing I didn't try to do a comment count to see, who came to, how many came down on which side, but a good many of them were both. And I think it's easy to argue as well that, if creativity is what particularly keeps you in Second Life, there's still the people side of it, because the feedback you get for what you do and the opportunity to see what other people are doing, which is inspiring to do more yourself. So anyway, an interesting read on that. And I think that's everything on my list.
Bring you back
there are some articles.
There
are some articles, real quick, in the American Journal of Psychiatry that also explains or has some suppositions about why people stay in virtual worlds. Okay, I just wanted to throw that in. But yeah, there's a lot of research on it actually now. If you just look up a few psych mags, you'll find professional articles.
Good.
Yeah. I think I think the issue of why you would stay in a virtual world and become sort of immersed in them is one thing, but the particular reasons people will stay in Second Life as opposed to another one, I think, is almost another question. Yeah, it's not a thing. I mean, we've had terms of service arguments about do Linden's own what we do, and now we're talking about tax arrangements. Well, hang on, am I now working for Linden Labs? Are they paying me? Quite a drunk.
Well, it's the nature of the beast. We do work for Linden Labs.
Yeah,
in a way.
But, we're now joined by our good friend Saffia Widdershins. Hi, Saffia.
Hello.
And Saffia.
I'm having a problem with Saffia floating way above her chair in a very awkward pose. So we may not see Saffia for a few minutes.
Stand up and sit down.
Thank you.
Seeing, yes, now
that's better, except for that manly pose you're in. But
no,
but that's better. Thank you.
We can sort that out.
Oh, that's nice.
Go. Yeah. Now I know Saffia's not going to be here for that long, so we'll come back to a lot more of the Hypergrid business stuff in a while. Actually,
sorry, I was going to say I can pick up because I have talked to some of the higher end merchants in Europe about this tax thing.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I was going to start you off rather meanly, actually, because we do cover things like OpenSim and Hypergrid quite a lot too. But I know that in particular, you mentioned something earlier that your interest really is very defined as Second Life, not totally, but so. We're asking this question: why do you stay? But I just kept thinking, well, Saffia can probably answer this one. Can you?
I guess partly because of the community, friends being here, also because my businesses are based here. I could move them to OpenSim, the Hypergrid, but in most places in the Hypergrid, there just aren't enough people there to make the businesses viable. Mm. I'm not going to sell an awful lot of advertising in OpenSim, I think.
Well, quite, yeah.
And also, there aren't the systems to make Inworld magazines in OpenSim. I might be able to get them reading Calameo, but there really aren't the businesses there that will buy the advertising that would justify doing much work with them.
Okay, that's a very good point. I mean, time may change that, of course, but I always, everybody knows I describe Second Life as the high street of the metaverse, because it's the shop fronts and the community and the venues and stuff like that. The things that happen in OpenSim are often very particular. Where they don't have need for that shop front or that public interface. So, but it is changing with the Hypergrid, I think. Okay, well, let's come back to your thoughts on the tax returns.
I know that quite a few top-level merchants, and we're talking about people who are taking home quite considerable sums of money. I think if you're a level 2 merchant, you're pulling down more than $20,000 US dollars a month. There's still people making serious money here. And at the beginning of the year, I mean, these are the kind of people who have accountants and who pay their local taxes virtuously because they couldn't afford to lose their businesses. At the beginning of the year, they were quite shocked when Linden Labs started demanding tax forms from them. But what it seems, I think that the US Tax Department was kind of cracking down on where was all this money going. But once it was sorted out, once they'd actually signed a form that basically, I think, made it clear that they had a tax trail in their own country, and also a tax trail that could be given to the US government so that if the US government were in any doubt, they could follow it. Everything was fine. And I think, essentially, there's some things that we may see as a bit unfair, but if we think about them logically, the US Tax Department is looking into the possibility of money laundering and needs to check on that. And also, there's a worldwide, inclination to get people to pay their taxes. So they need to know that these large sums of money are being taxed somewhere.
Oh yes, yeah, I can see that.
And so, yeah, it was very, very scary for a lot of people who thought that, something horrible was going to happen, especially as, it was a week or so afterwards before the lab started posting explanations of what was going on and why they were doing it. So, when you get kind of an American tax letter out of the blue, or the demand for an American tax form out of the blue, you're just like, what? Oh my God, no!
Yeah.
We have the same reaction here, trust me.
Hang on, I've got another government, and I've got another government chasing me. Yeah.
I'm paying my taxes, don't take any more money.
Yeah, right?
But that was it. I think in the case of the Australian, it may be something like this. If you refuse to fill in the tax form, they are going... I don't know if you have it in the States, but I imagine you have something similar. We have something over here called emergency tax, which is basically if they can estimate what your income... If you refuse to fill in tax forms, you don't fill in tax forms at all, they can estimate, and you're kind of self-employed consulting, they can actually estimate what they think your earnings are and take that. And they will generally try and make the emergency tax significantly higher as a very strong inducement to you.
It must be nice to be them, don't you think? Jeez.
Well, it's just basically because if, given the choice, no one's going to fill in their tax forms, you need to have sanctions, and it's actually... can be more expensive and counterproductive, dragging people through the courts and sending them to prison. So just charging them emergency tax on their bank account is a very effective way of bringing them to heel.
I think a lot of employees, I think this happened to me once, when you become an employee for a short period of time, you also subject to emergency tax. It's not because the employer is not paying it or anything else. It's just a tie-by thing. Well, it's all sorted out, and then they refund, the extra they taxed you when they've got it sorted out. So yeah, it's a reasonable way of doing things, I think. And as you say, it's an incentive.
As far as I know, we don't have that in the United States because we love going to court. So we will go to court. The IRS will take you to court, and they will put you in prison if you're deliberately not paying your taxes.
And they will win no matter what the circumstances are.
Yes.
I think this is kind of just an incentive to do it. If you stubbornly refuse to pay, or if they find out that you've not been paying, then they will take you to court, and yes, you can go to prison for non-payment of tax. It's just a way of making sure that everyone trots along quickly. It's effective.
And it's a very real dilemma because they have to introduce things these days in Britain, but I'm sure everywhere, to monitor PayPal accounts and things like that to make sure you're not hoarding loads of money in.
This is why PayPal is registered as a financial institution in every major country where it does business right now. So they have a local company that is based locally, that's registered as a bank or a money transmitter in pretty much every major jurisdiction. And India was the latest one where they had registration problems and couldn't accept payments and make payments for a while. And then I believe they fixed that. So if you're going through PayPal, you do have a local organization that you're dealing with that can file all the respective documents to your local government.
That's brilliant.
Now, Second Life is
that.
not registered in any other country as a money transmitter or as a bank, because as far as Second Life is concerned, it's not a bank. But in a practical sense, you give money to Second Life, and you can withdraw this money later with, after paying a fee. So in a practical sense, they say it's a linked exchange. You're actually buying it from other players. I mean, there's all this cover that's covering up the fact that you're putting money in and you're taking money out. Yeah. It is a financial transaction. And I don't know how much longer the courts, the regulators will allow them to do that. Now, if they're not growing, so I don't think anybody cares at this point. It's not a significant amount of money compared to what's happening in other areas. But if Second Life does take off, or if other virtual worlds take off, or if the Hypergrid takes off, I think that what we're going to see is grids are not going to be doing money themselves. They'll be outsourcing all their financial stuff to PayPal or to somebody like PayPal. So in OpenSim, we have Virvox and we have Podex and we have a couple other exchanges that handle the money, and they deal with the regulators. And they deal with, the setting up all the legal infrastructure. And I think that's long-term is the way to go, is you let somebody else who specializes in finance take care of the finance, and you just do the fun virtual world stuff.
Yeah. I imagine many people running virtual worlds will think exactly that way. They don't want the hassle of the accounts. You've got to be a particular mindset to do accounts.
We'd have new features in the SL banking system every week.
Yeah. And if they're half as bad as the lawyers, we wouldn't understand them either.
Seriously.
which wouldn't help. Okay, so back to Saffia, because while you're here, next week's Designing Worlds is the end of the season, I believe.
That's right. It's been a great season. We've done some really cool shows. And we've got a really interesting one to finish. You might remember earlier in the season we did a couple of shows about Second Life retention.
Oh, yes.
We had a couple of discussion shows about ways in which we could keep people in Second Life and the new user experience and what was wrong with it. We had a couple of Lindens on the show to talk about it. Well, as a result of that, I was contacted by someone in the Japanese Sims who thought I might be interested, especially when I did an exhibit about that at the birthday. They thought that I might be interested in hearing about how they tackle the new user experience and the user retention in the Japanese Sims. And I was, because they do they have some quite radical and interesting programs over there. So Elric and I went over and we visit a number of Japanese Sims and organizations to talk about how they're tackling the new user retention, new user experience and retention. For example, the when you first arrive, there's very little documentation available in Japanese. There's stuff on the website, but when you first go to a place like Help Island, most of the material that's available is all in English.
Or Americanese.
Mm-hmm.
No, American English, yeah.
Fine, Mal. Fine. Okay, Mal.
certainly not in Japanese.
Yeah.
And so, they've worked out programs and ways of trying to encourage newcomers. And we also came across Japanese TV, which was a phenomenon I hadn't come across before, but they have a very active TV channel.
I tell you, if I get all these subscriptions, video stuff, and if I added the Japanese content to the aggregation I do already, it would triple. I mean, there's just so much of it, and long shows too.
Yes.
Both talks, parties, fashion, the whole works. They
basically do the whole station. Yeah, they've got well, I mean, they may have more than one station. We came across SLTV and Cleone, who appeared on the telethon. And I was absolutely thrilled because we talked about how we could do some projects together. And that was one of them that she should come over. And
that's great. That's awesome.
And so we talked to her as well. We talked to a lot of Japanese people who are working with newcomers. Most of the show is read by actors because we came across a lot of Japanese speakers, and we had a completely wonderful guide, who was the guy who originally contacted me, whose name is, I hope I pronounce it right, Kenjo, and he was our guide, ran the Sims, and provided translations for us.
I think that's the name. I wonder if it's the same one. There's a guy. One of the sources on YouTube is Kenjo something or other. So I'm just laughing here. Lapaisian has just put some Japanese text in our chat room, and I haven't got a clue what it's about. Yeah. Sorry, multilingual. Good on you, Lap. Yeah, but this is a problem in OpenSim and a lot of virtual worlds. I mean, the language thing. I mean, the Safari recently, we went to Franco Grid and Metropolis, which is a German grid, and they immediately pitch in a voice, and we're all having to load up our translators, to figure out what they're telling us and greeting us. But I've actually come across a lot of things like Japanese concerts and things, which are. Oh, hang on! Something's happened to our interface. Oops.
I'm sorry, Mal. I had to turn it on because Zoe was just all over the place. Apologies to everybody.
Right. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. This is what you get behind the scenes, you see. You don't normally see all that stuff. We're fussy about that, but there you did. So, sneak preview of what happens behind the scenes in virtual television.
Yeah,
right.
When your camera woman's avatar decides to go on a walk all by itself. I don't know what happens. I had to rein her in. Sorry. Stuff happens, as they say. Yeah, anyway, this sounds like more than one show, to be honest. I mean,
it's a pretty full show. But it's a really interesting one. We thought it would make a good end to the season.
Well, I look forward to seeing that. So, that'd be great. Now, the other thing I know you mentioned is that when you were, talking about your businesses in World and getting advertisements and making up, glossy magazines, whether they be on the web or in World copies and OpenSim not. It's a bit like us trying to find camera equipment. It's not always there in OpenSim yet. But you are actually doing a whole sort of relaunch kind of thing with Print Perfect, your flagship title, aren't you?
That's right, yes. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus. We made a conscious decision after our 7th birthday issue in May that we would take a breather over the summer and that we would come back with a new website and a new look magazine in September and launch it at the Home and Garden Expo, which is, of course, a very appropriate place for us. And we've got some fun new things coming up.
Yay.
And this will, of course, be the Home and Garden Expo, of course, is Relay for Life fundraiser. And, of course, this will be the start of the whole new year for that, too, won't it?
It will, yes, yes. Because they had to delay the Home and Garden Expo this year because of various things to do with the positioning of Easter and trying to cram all the events in and not get people's Easter holidays. So in the end, they took the decision to move the Home and Garden to September. So that's something new. And we're having a relaunch, and we've got some new articles which I'm excited about. One of which is going to be a sort of he said, she said, or even she said, counterpoint style. And for the first one, we're doing gachas. And we're going to have someone talking about why gachas are so popular and how great they are, and someone else saying why gachas are a waste of money.
Very good. It's an imprint debate.
That's right. It's going to be an imprint debate. 2 articles, one on either side. And I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating.
That will get the comments for them working.
Well, yes. And then, if we get letters about it and comments on the blog, we'll probably pop them into the next issue as well. And we're also looking at things like getting readers to tell us about items they found. They can contribute to the magazine as well.
Great.
So we've got plans for new things, and it's going to be a whole new shape, and it's a whole new design, and
it's
really
shape.
Exciting. Yeah.
What, you're going to go square or something?
Yep, we are.
Oh, that was a good guess, wasn't it?
It was. Well, there are three shapes. We've been portrait. We could go landscape, but that's too copybook. We're going square. So it's going to give it a whole new look. And there's all sorts of design ideas and fonts. We're in the thick of working on that at the moment. It's great.
Of course, all the people who download it and want to print it out are going to have to get guillotines, aren't they?
Great, sir.
Make it look right.
I think actually they'll probably have, they can have white space, or they may be able to tweak it. I don't know. But yeah, I think we're accepting the fact that the people who download it and print it out are probably in a minority.
Yeah.
Most people are reading it Inworld or on the web.
On the little Jackster clip we showed before the show, where he introduced our friend Edward Clarity, Eddie Clarity, what was fascinating was seeing Eddie holding up the this one Inworld, actually it's probably competition for you in a way, LTD magazine. And, he was talking to Jackster on the live webcam, and he was holding up the full glossy thing that looked like a Yellow Pages, and flipping it in front of the camera. And that was amazing to see because, I go to Issue or the other one, what's it, Calameo you use?
Calameo.
Yeah, and that is a reading experience. In Issue's case, I just get everything through the app, and it's like a Kindle. There's that will never quite replace the coffee table feel. It's like I still love my art books, even though I'm quite happy to read a novel on the Kindle or an iPad. I like my art books being on the shelf, and there is something about that coffee table approach. Really slick magazines and things that you really can't beat the tactile experience of the real thing. So. It's I don't know. It just fascinated me to see him holding it there. I kept thinking, how much does it cost him to print out? I don't know how many copies he prints of the thing physically, but because obviously those things are made up perfectly. I mean, you could hand that over to a printer and print 10,000 copies and send them to W.H. Smith if they were taken, or if it was a risk.
Yeah, if you thought you could sell them, but
so you're working for all mediums at the same time there, even though it is at the moment solely electronics. So fascinating stuff, really. Okay, so before I move on to Maria and we open up the conversation a bit as well, I have to ask, don't I, the Black and Mirror? I mean, what is Saffia on the seat without some mention of the Black and Mirror?
Well, we're still very much in pre-production phase at the moment, and that's all I can say.
Okay, but it won't be too many months before we get the final series. Is it the final series of a trilogy?
It's planned to be the final series, yes.
Right. So then we'll have an epic on our hands. A full-length movie, actually, if you put them all together.
3 hours. 3 hours of film.
I think you have to go to the cutting room floor before you get in the cinemas. Oh, well, maybe Netflix will do it for you.
Dream on. Let me know who you get in touch with. I want to talk to them, too.
Yes.
That'd be great.
It's I forget what it's called now. There was that old one, wasn't there? There was a 6-parter, one of the first things done in Second Life. That guy who did his voyages, and you put them all together, and they were roughly at movie length. And he sold them.
We've got 2 movies already. Seasons 1 and 2 come out to a nice 30-40 minute piece of work, entertainment.
I'm just thinking the trilogy is like a movie, so if it ends, you can watch it all together as a great adventure. Anyway, enough of that. Let's let's move on to a few other things. I think I'll hand to Maria. I mean, Maria, if you want to just stick to the news items first of all, and then I know there's actually quite a few articles that come up via your blog and other things that we can open up the discussion on. I don't know how long you want to stay, Saffia. It's not all Hypergrid business, but if you'd like to continue in the conversation. Your headlines, Maria.
Okay, so the big story this week was the upcoming August events, and one of the as a sidebar to this, we're starting to see a lot of grids issue their calendars in Google Calendar format or in compatible format, and this means that you can pull stuff from different calendars together. Yeah. So I've started doing that on the Hyperica site, which is a directory of Hypergrid destinations. Right in the homepage is a little sidebar with today's events on it, and it's pulled automatically from several grids or groups that have their calendars available in this format. And it's free. Google Calendar is free to anybody, and you can add stuff on it. Then you can embed it on your website or link to it in your Google community or your Facebook group or whatever. People can subscribe to your calendar so they get notices of upcoming events.
That's actually the only way I get events, even in Second Life. I can't follow the events page and all the IMs I get every time I log in, and they're usually capped anyway. I mean, I simply subscribe to all the Google calendars I can find. And then I get one continuous feed of everything, and I just dismiss everything I'm not interested in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, not all grids have that set up yet. So if anybody watching has an in with Metropolis or Craft or Franco Grid or some of the other big grids, please lean on them to switch their calendars to a format that does support iCal exports. This is a very standard format. A lot of WordPress plugins support it. Google Calendar obviously supports it. So please do it that way. That way other people can follow your calendar, and it means you can have aggregation of calendars. Of course, the only calendars I'm aggregating are the ones that are on the Hypergrid, because there's no point in listing an event where you can't teleport to it, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. If you want to keep it private, you can keep it private. But if you want it to be listed on Hyperica, it should be Hypergrid accessible. So, that's my little bit of vegetables there. What's happening this month? Well, we already missed the big party, the book release party. I was on the 1st.
That's not.
Nara's Nook, but I want to point out that Nara's Nook is a very interesting model for grids that I'm really enjoying following. It's a community grid for a writer's community. Yeah. And so they don't care that much about commerce, except for selling their books. Yeah. But they don't care too much about content protection. Yes, they have cafes up and typewriters, but if somebody goes in with a copy bot and steals their typewriters, it's not really going to affect that grid one way or the other. It's not like a store where everything gets ripped off. That's a blow to that store. So this is a community grid. People teleport in and out from wherever grid they live on, and they can participate in writing events. And they're reaching out to other grids and doing cross-grid events. So there's a bunch of writer stuff happening on Kitely, for example, with the poesy and the poetry groups, and the library, the Senchai library opened up.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
And on the other extreme of it, the adult metaverse Google Plus community is bringing together the erotica writers from Nara's Nook with people from Avalonia Estates and some of the more adult-focused grids for a slightly more adult take on it. So they're straddling these two kinds of communities. On the one hand, the writers, the high-end librarian types, and on the other hand, the adult stuff. And It is. I love it. I love the fact that the Hypergrid can bring all these different people together in different combinations.
We were. I went there. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago as part of the Hypergrid Safari, and we were talking with her. Nara, I forget her second name.
Nara Malone.
Malone, yeah. And what was also fascinating to me was that it'd be like having a book club in Second Life or something, but they were attracting people in there who were real world writers. They were not people who necessarily come into a virtual world as an avatar and explored anything other than their own writing community. And that I thought was really good, because it's clearly a way of pulling an area of interest, the professionals in one particular area, into the virtual environment, so they can meet other writers and see what each other are doing. And some of them are built kind of they've all got their own little builds within Nara's Nuke that sort of reflects their fiction or extends their fiction. And it's really quite fascinating, I thought.
Yeah. No, I love seeing what's happening there. It's such a wonderful model for OpenSim, because so many groups out there can benefit from having something like this, a private virtual world that's connected as much or as little as you want to other virtual worlds, that has this opportunity for creative expression at a super, super ridiculously low cost. And I'll get back to the cost issue after I'm done with the upcoming events. So we have 2 big grid openings this month. A Virtual Paradise, an adult grid, is holding its grand opening August 15th. They're growing fast. They said that in the past month, even though they're not even open to the public yet officially, they've already had 700 registered accounts created, which is excellent for OpenSim. They've doubled in size. And they're giving land rent discounts while they're starting out. So obviously, I think that the porn industry is a big driver of technology. And I, as a business writer, I am extremely happy to see the growth of the adult community in OpenSim, purely from an economics technology perspective.
Yeah, and it beats the red light district because it's yeah.
and then another one grid that's also having a grand opening is the Exo Life grid. We talked about them a little last month. They are sponsored by a Jewish community organization.
I know. I'm reading your blog on this, and I've been laughing at the name of, what's it, Gonk Brunk Shekels?
Kol Ami Havura, which provides non-commercial radio stations and Jewish educational services in West Virginia. And you are right. The money of it is, in fact, Gonk Brunk Shekels.
Lyndon, see your heart out.
and they don't have Governor Lyndon to keep track of this money in circulation. They have General Wilcox. So I thought that was very cute. So what they are doing, which is unusual, is that they have hypergrid connections only to 8 other grids. I mentioned that you can be hypergrid connected to as many or as few grids as you want. They are the example of being connected to exactly 8 grids. They don't know exactly which 8 grids those are going to be, but they know that it's going to be 8. They've got, I think, 6 of them already lined up. They're checking to make sure that those are the kinds of grids that are a good fit for them. Some bad news, some really, really sad news. Summer is over because Virtual Highway is already getting ready for Halloween. They are putting up Halloween decorations already. They're going to have a 3-region Halloween build. They're centering around a couple of horror movies, and they're planning to open this on the 1st of October. So
actually, if I can interrupt a second,
yes?
This is not Open Grid, but you've just prompted me with something. I had a couple of things I was going to bring up while Saffia was talking. A post from Kara's Grid, I think it is. I'll just copy and paste it over. The Lovecraft Festival is happening. Again, segue to literature. This is one that's happening in Second Life. I've just pasted the link to. The annual Lovecraft Festival is going to be held on August 19th to 25th in Second Life, around the time of his birthday. And it's going to include a recreation of At the Mountains of Madness, amongst many other things. So I thought I'd just sort of pop that in, because you mentioned Halloween.
Yeah. I will have to make a note to stay away from that, because I remember reading a Lovecraft story once, and it's still freaking me out years later. I'm very easily frightened.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Very creepy.
An acquired thing, yeah.
So grids are continuing to update to OpenSim 0.8, which is the latest version of OpenSim. It has variable size regions and a bunch of other cool stuff. Now, variable size regions are the big thing that's making a big impact across all the OpenSim grids. We talked about it last week. Some commercial grids are giving discounts on land by offering variable size regions. Some hosting companies, and this came out like a couple months ago, were even upgrading people to variable size regions at no additional cost. So you can either have your 15,000 prims on something the size of one region, or your 15,000 prims on something the size of 4 regions, or 9 regions, or 16 regions. So this just...
I'm sorry, we're talking about Lovecraft a minute ago. I can hear the wolf howling in the background somewhere.
Yes, I have a beagle outside, 2 doors away. He's two rooms away with 2 doors closed in the middle. He's an extremely loud dog. Oh, yeah.
It just, talking of Halloween and howling wolves and that whole immersion, and there's the howling. I'm sorry, that was just perfect. Just perfect.
Yeah.
It'll just alter your mental picture if you see a basset hound. and then
Yes. I meant to have that special effect. Yeah, to illustrate the whole Halloween theme. Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket.
Yeah.
Yes, I was saying that low cost land is a wonderful thing. It is the killer feature of OpenSim, and it's great for things like open sailing regions, hunting, desert treks, role playing, space wars, all that stuff that requires a lot of land. You can have as much land, at this point you can have as much land as you want in OpenSim, and really cost is really not an issue. Now, Virtual Highway is like Third Rock Grid. They're a closed commercial grid. Both of these grids are well known for their music scene, and a Virtual Highway in particular is going to have a KISS tribute concert on August 9th. So if you're into KISS, you will have band members in full KISS attire and makeup, and an elaborate stage and light show.
I took an interest in KISS for 6 months or so, about 30 years ago. Please.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of tribute bands, I'm afraid.
I love tribute bands.
Even if we did have Freddie Mercury being mimed to in High Fidelity, that was quite fun.
You already mentioned that the Hypergrid Safari has added a Sunday trip. They also have a trip every Wednesday, so check those out. I've got some small announcements from grids. Island Oasis is selling small parcels on the mainland. This was a little bit of a tiny little controversy in the comments. They say they're selling this land, and I said that they're renting this land because you don't actually own any land. You have to pay the money every month, or it's gone. Not a very particularly great sale. But I guess it dates back to the whole Second Life model, where I believe if you buy directly from Second Life, it's called a sale, and if you buy from a reseller, it's rentals. Is that correct? You guys are more expert in Second Life, yeah. So, and that's a marketing distinction, not an actual real distinction, because in either case, you're still renting land. So that's a personal pet peeve of mine. why make it more difficult for people to rent? And the whole thing with tiers and the setup fees. Oh, don't get me started on those.
Yeah. I don't think it's conceptually. I can't conceive that anybody owns land. You're renting service space. So, it's all it's semantics to me. But for people into that, you need it.
For example, you can buy my grid, for example, if you wanted to. But by buying my grid, you'd be buying the content on that grid, and chances are you would move that grid to your own servers. Just like if you bought my website. It's the content on the site that you're buying. Now, you could also come to my house and actually buy my physical servers, if secondhand, if you wanted to. So you could actually have the whole kit, where you have the servers and the grid. So that would be an actual purchase.
Sure.
But when you pay month by month, and if you stop paying, it goes away. That is not a sale in any sense of the word, selling or buying. Sorry. Anyway.
Okay, I've just I've added the link to that post and Hypergrid Business into the chat there, by the way. And it's worth pointing out again that at the bottom of that post, you actually have links to all the calendars you could dig up.
All the calendars, yes.
So if you want to subscribe to these calendars, then go to that webpage and then follow the links to the calendars at Google and add them to your own Google Calendar, if you have one. And if you don't, shame on you. Right.
So Dream Nation is another grid that upgraded. Now, what they are is they're most known for the grid with the best retention rates. And one of the reasons that they have such a good retention rate is because it's a by recommendation only grid. So it's not like every random person can show up, create an account, find out they don't like it, and leave. No, they already know something about the grid, and they have to be recommended to get in. So they're kind of pre-screened. But they also have been in the news because it turns out that Virvox, which is a currency provider, they provide an OMC currency, has been charging fees to their users for keeping a balance without using it. So if you have an account that you haven't touched for a month, they will take a fee out of it, which is ridiculous.
I thought they're meant to pay interest on it, not take a fee.
I know. Exactly. How insane is that? So
it's called modern banking.
Exactly. So they switched to their own currency, and they built their own. It's got a U.S. monetary value and is redeemable. It's a lot easier to use, too, than a third-party currency. With third-party currencies, like PayPal or OMC, in order to buy something in World, a web page actually comes up where you do the actual transaction for security. So you have to have a confirmation that you actually do want to pay the money that comes up through a website. And the reason for that is because if you can put this on any grid, who knows what the grid owner is like? He could be ripping you off, right? So that's they have a secondary web page confirmation step.
Yeah.
Now, when the grid itself is the currency provider, they can skip that confirmation step because I assume they would trust themselves, not to rip themselves off. So for example, for Second Life, if you buy something in World, you don't need a confirmation step because Second Life runs all the regions and they run all the servers and they run the currency. So the same thing with Dream Nation. They've set up their own internal currency. It runs directly in World. They run all the regions. No outsiders are running their servers, so they're fully in control of the entire environment. So it's easier for users because they don't have to go to a third-party website. The downside of this is that if the grid closes, what will happen if you have currency that's left over? So this happened with Evanation recently, where they refused to refund $5 to a resident, which is insane because it created so much bad will for them for $5. Yeah. Well, anyway, so thus some of the grids are talking about how they keep reserves so that people can be certain to be able to get the money back if they want. But if you're using PayPal or OMC or some other third-party system, then even if the grid closes, you still have your PayPal account or your OMC account or whatever. so that there's less risk to the user if the grid closes. All right.
And of course, you've got common marketplaces now, like Kitely.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask if there were treasure hunts in these other grids, Maria.
Not that I've seen any, at least not that I've seen any on the Hypergrid. Inworld probably has some internally. Some of the other commercial grids probably do some internally. I don't follow the internal stuff on Inworlds. But I haven't seen any on the Hypergrid. I've been trying to talk to some people about getting them going on the Hypergrid because I think it'd be really cool.
I think I know I'm lost on this. Was it Joyce or I might know? I think it was the other week when we had Fleep on. We had the idea that we would do a kind of hunt prelude to the OCC conference.
Well, I was asking about that, and I think the Kitely. Kitely had a hunt on Kitely itself, the Easter egg hunt.
That's cool. I was just wondering.
Yeah, so they do have them. And I think I remember egg hunts on other grids as well.
Makes sense.
But on the Hypergrid, the logistics of that is just
pretty mind-boggling.
So far, yeah.
I think it was, just as hunts, as we know from Happy Hunting and all sorts of things, are great ways to explore Second Life and other grids and find freebies that are good quality.
Yeah.
The idea of a Hypergrid hunt where there was only one stop, but instead of on a particular sim, it would be on a different grid. So, you would actually go to 20 different grids to find your prizes.
Or
and that's
maybe have 5 gift items each on, say, 4 grids or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be...
It's just a great way of promoting the idea of jumping grids, so that the Franco grid would offer something French and Metropolis would. Yes. Very good. Oh, right. That's good.
All right. So, the other thing, a big thing this week was I did a survey of the users because of the question of the can OpenSim survive, right? With the Oculus Rift, with SL version 2. Is there a future for OpenSim? So we were discussing this in various comments and various articles and in opinion pieces. And then I thought, well, there is no official roadmap for OpenSim. OpenSim is a user-driven community, user-driven platform. And I'm thinking, well, we are users. Well, what do we want? Let's do some driving here. So I started the survey about a week ago and collected 143 responses about what features people want to see most. And the top 2 that were ranked as the high priority that people want to see right away were better vehicles and physics and better search for functionality. This was the things that people wanted, that they thought was most important for OpenSim's future. So I think on the physics side, and the vehicle side, I think the reason why that's a top concern is because of so much confusion right now. I mentioned that grids are switching to OpenSim 0.8. So 0.8 has the Bullet physics engine, which is closer to Second Life's physics engine. Previously, OpenSim had the ODE, which is the default engine, another open source engine, and the scripting was different. So the vehicle scripts had to be modified to work with the ODE, and then have to be modified back to work with Bullet. So so every grid can have its choice of physics engine right now. So nobody knows what's running, and some grids have multiple physics engines running because every grid owner can decide every region owner can decide for themselves what physics engine they're going to use on their region. For example, Kitely, gives you a checkbox for which physics engine you want on your region. So nobody knows which vehicles work where. Plus, some commercial grids like Inworlds are building their own physics thing that's totally, different from those two. So a lot of confusion. You don't just have one set of standard scripts that work everywhere. I think over time this will shake out as the Bullet stuff continues getting improvements and the physics gets better. But on the search side,
it seems to me, actually, while you're on that, first of all, Lepaisian in chat again has said he thinks the thought that I think are made up by former SL residents, and it would make such grids allies to SL rather than competition. And I do think that the question about the future of OpenSim on one level is more to do with what a new Second Life might be like, what Hypergrid will turn out to be like, and other platforms. Rather than the fact of the VR technology itself. And to me, at the moment, Second Life still has a big thing going for it, but so does the Hypergrid. And you mentioned, I think we mentioned last week that it's not Sim on a Stick, which has also been updated, I gather.
Yes.
But there's that other thing that Ariba, that's it, Ariba. And I do know that when we went to an Ariba Sim hosted Sim, which was actually an internal teleport in, I think it was the one that was an internal teleport in Metropolis. There were actually problems getting across the boundaries from the Ariba hosted Sim into the standard OpenSim. I know they're compatible and everything else, but there did seem to be a problem. You had to, it was there were big problems TPing out. Whereas if you could get somewhere else, the TP was no longer a problem. So it strikes me that, OpenSim is already diversifying in the sense we have the Hypergrid, but there are, as you say, different architectures, physics engines or whatever running there. I mean, in somewhere like Second Life, Linden will obviously have gone to great lengths to keep it all the same. The code on all the servers the same, and well, within reason, whatever they're fiddling with in the back end, I don't know. Whereas, there's even the server software that is hosting, the server machines that host Open Grids have very different architectures too. So I think the fact they all work together is the fantastic thing, but you're bound to find these sort of obstructions along the way where somebody experiments with some new code and it takes a while for it to be compatible with the other thing. But, when you have that freedom, people are free to make leaps and bounds and maybe improve on something on one grid that ends up becoming ubiquitous on every grid.
Over time, though, I think that you do see a great deal of standardization on core features. I mean, you have this happening on the websites as well. Like the experimental cutting-edge stuff, like WebGL or HTML5, isn't universally supported. Internet Explorer lags behind quite a bit.
Well, yes,
but for 99.9% of what you have on websites, it really doesn't matter what browser you're using. It all works. Yeah. So I think the same thing's happening with OpenSim. Certain features are on the experimental side. Right now, that's physics. And they get shaken out, and then people generally pick what their preference is, and over time everybody gravitates towards that particular solution, and then moves on to whatever the next experimental feature is. And right now, OpenSim is still very much in the fast development stage. We're rolling out a lot of new features very quickly, but over time, the mass of existing features is going to be significant enough that the new features rolling out are going to be like on a periphery, and they're going to make percentage-wise a smaller and smaller impact on the people's experience with the virtual worlds. So I think that's just a factor of time. What is not a factor of time that will have to have actual work done to fix it is better search functionality.
Yeah.
When you go into a world where the Second Life or anything else, and that article in Business Insider demonstrate this very well, it's very hard for your average person to find stuff that they want in any virtual world right now. And the reason is because we don't have a very good paradigm for how search works in a virtual world. And it took a while for us to get one on the web. The whole idea of counting inbound links that Google came up with was a brilliant insight. And before then, all we had was keyword searches, which were lousy. Like, we had the Yahoo search, we had Alta Vista, and Northern Lights, and whatever Microsoft, all the other guys. Google came out with tracking links, and that turned out to be the cool thing. We don't have that yet for virtual worlds. And my suggestion for how to fix it is, and I wrote a column about this, is to combine events and groups together, because event names are usually very descriptive. Group names are usually very descriptive. And if you have good built-in group and events functionality, and you want to like search for shoes, you would come up with things like a shoe sale going on by a group that you belong to or that your friends belong to. That is of most relevance to you, as opposed to finding some sim where somebody has shoes in their closet. So I personally think that would be a great way to look for things. Plus, it gives you an immediate access to activities that you can do right away because the events are coming up. So it lets you find out where people are who would be doing stuff you're most likely to be interested in.
I think that is a crucial point, because it goes beyond the hypergrid and the concept of destinations and places to go. A lot of people complain about OpenSim. They go there and there's nobody around and nothing's happening. Whereas now they can check the users logged into the grid they're logged into, and there may be a few people on the grid, but again, they can see, there's not many people here. I'm buggering off back to Second Life or something. But, hypergrid wide, that isn't actually the case. There will be grids on, the hypergrid as a whole, which are actually highly populated, but people don't see them. Whereas what you're suggesting is they will literally type in, I want to see some blues music. And it will connect with a group of blues enthusiasts, and you will be able to find out where a blues music gig is playing, and then presumably get the hyperlink you can follow.
Yeah. If you search for blues, it should return the closest event that's happening now or in the near future that is connected to you through the shortest number of connections, like you're in a group or your best friend's in a group, or that has the largest group behind it. So it's the most popular event, right? Yeah. So that will clear out some of the spammers who just put up spam events that don't have anything meaningful in them, because nobody's going to want to join a spam group. And so I think that this could be a Google-style way to prioritize destinations.
Actually, in a way, to me, what you're describing sounds more like a LinkedIn or a Facebook operation, where they actually scan your information and say, you belong to this group, so you might well be interested in these groups too. And therefore it then gives the events from the groups it thinks you're interested in, based on the information you've given already.
So Meetup is the perfect model here for this, and I think that Meetup does a great job connecting people to other people, and the locations are actually secondary in Meetup. And I think, and this might be heresy to say this, but I think that in virtual worlds the locations are secondary. What's primary is the communities, the connections between people, the stuff that you can do. Yeah.
I mean, this sounds like, this need is something that I think we can apply to Second Life as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, big as it is, we've got the Inworld groups, we've got destination guides and whatever, but no cohesive system that gets to know what you are really interested in and provides you the connections in Second Life or any virtual world that, is targeted to you.
And the thing is that, say you register for Second Life with Facebook, right? And you come in. Facebook has access to your friends. They know which groups your friends are in. They should be able to tell you in your first second of logging in, you check out these things. I think they will be right up your alley. And I think that would do huge wonders for Second Life retention, help people connect to other people in world right away, and give them interesting stuff to do that they will care about. And Second Life, I'm giving this idea to you for free, because I want the virtual worlds to grow. No money necessary. You're welcome.
I think in the case of the hypergrid, this would really, ideally this would be a third-party operation, a service provided to the hypergrid.
It could be. It could be, or it could be something that's a module behind the scenes that grids install, and that grids can be queried on. So right now, if you go to a website and you type in a grid's login URI / the words get grid info, it will show up on a website a list of information about that grid. What I'm suggesting is that grids do the same thing, so you can get grid events, and it will show you the events and the groups that are associated with them that are coming up. Or you can get grid links, and it will show you all the outbound hypergrid links, hypergate links on that grid. And I think both of those things would allow third-party search engines to be able to gather that information from grids without any impact on grid servers and databases, because these are just static web pages that people can update like once a day or something, or maybe once an hour if it's a really busy grid. So it's up there. There's no load on the databases, no load on the servers, no spiders required to go into your world and find stuff. And I think it would really help solve our search. So that's my idea for solving the search problem.
When Philip Rosedale was talking about, trying to put in layman's terms the mechanics of high fidelity, he mentioned a lot of sort of services and things, be it marketplaces, monetary systems, search engines or stuff, and he seemed to describe them as kind of plugins. And one of the main, it's more like the hypergrid, the destination side of it was what he simply calls namespaces. In other words, the whole network that will make up high fidelity will be destinations that are controlled by this namespace thing. And he actually cited the hypergrid as, an example of the way that will work. So, when we are talking about...
Except it's not true. He totally missed the point of that. The hypergrid actually uses regular standard ICANN domain names. You go to... you go to hypergrid.osgrid.org to teleport somewhere. It uses the regular domain name system. So there's no need for brand new namespaces, blah, blah, blah. You can just use the URLs you already have and save yourself a whole lot of money and the trouble of building a whole new system to keep track of it.
Good point.
Anyway.
Good point. Yeah, I was, when we talk about the future all the while, I was just saying, I wonder if the hypergrid addressing system can be combined with its namespaces. And but of course, we don't know what the viewer requirements or anything are yet. Anyway, but it's it's interesting. I think you have Second Life, you'll have a new Second Life, but eventually, and but more importantly, we have got the hypergrid and OpenSim, and they have a lot in common. They have major differences, but they also have a lot in common. So there is nothing around yet, that actually competes with them. And they do have, to a certain extent, different functions. So, as you say, the future of OpenSim is down to its users in many ways.
All right. So next, people want a better protection for in-world content. And we have that export permission, but nobody's using it yet. We talked about that before. People wanted a more formal structure for OpenSim, including ability to take donations and pay developers. I've actually heard this from several big users that they want OpenSim to be more official, more grown up, and I think at some point it's going to have to. I think I personally think that we're past the time where we should be doing that, because OpenSim does have a lot of big name users that do want a more formal structure, that they do have corporate users, they do have military government users, so a more like official kind of organizational structure would help. People want
So I can be really rude again and interrupt you with something else that happened in literally the last 10 days or so. It is related because you triggered me. I don't know whether Saffia is still with us. Are you still with us, Saffia? Oh, right, because you, being a fellow Brit, as it were, may be aware of this too, but I don't know how long ago our government, our wonderful coalition or whatever they are, did pass legislation about copyrights, and particularly like streaming torrents of movies and things like that. And it came pretty much a surprise to me in the last week, 10 days or so, that they have backed down on enforcement of this. Apparently, if you're caught downloading a pirate movie or something, your ISP will send you a note saying you've been naughty. And they will do this up to 5 times. But after the 5th time, you're no longer going to get disconnected. They're just going to ignore you and let you continue. Because the government has decided that any system to stop people doing it is unworkable. Which is funny because you'll get these warnings, but you'll just be able to discard the warnings and then download the pirate material to your heart's content. Now, this is assuming you can get at it. Anybody who puts something online, I imagine if somebody puts a pirate movie online, they can be done for putting a pirate movie online. Mm-hmm. But if it's out there and can be got at, while it's there doesn't really seem to be too many obstacles. So it seems to me, in the greater web sense, and it would affect virtual worlds too, the extent, to which copyright protection is going to work in future may actually become a lot more lax. Because the value, for Christ's sake, of a movie, that you can effectively get for free, it's a high value sort of thing. And if there are no protections, if protecting that stuff is unenforceable, except by getting the website taken down, of course, by the copyright owners, there is going to be a lot of this stuff going on. And it just seems to me that if something on that scale is going to be possible, then how is it going to affect us in virtual worlds and everywhere else?
Well, I've long been arguing that the solution for virtual world content creators is to follow the lead of music people like on Amazon and on iTunes, where you sell content without restrictions, you sell it full perm. You crack down on distributors. So if somebody puts up a competing site and sells your stuff, you file takedown notices against them.
Yeah.
You don't go after your customers, your end users. You leave them alone. You let people make personal backups or share with friends if they want to. And you make the legal options as reasonably priced and as easy to use as possible. And this strategy is working for the music and movie industries. If you look at traffic in the United States, Netflix accounts for Netflix, Hulu, and YouTube are huge. They account for the majority of all the traffic, and these are legal channels where the content creators make money off of it. BitTorrent is a tiny, small percentage of the whole. It's I think it's like less than 3%, I think, of the traffic is BitTorrent, even though it's free. And Netflix is a huge percent. I think it's like not the majority, but the plurality of the traffic is Netflix. And it's paid. People make money by distributing through Netflix. So I think that's the model. It's a common sense model. It's a model that doesn't punish the end users. The end user has no way of knowing for sure if the store where they get stuff is a pirate store or a legal store.
Yeah.
Or if a friend gives them something, is that something that the friend was supposed to give or not? Don't punish the users for enjoying your stuff. Make it easy for them to buy it. Make it convenient for them to buy it. And when you do go after somebody, go after the distributors. Take the distributors down, and that's a good balance, and it means you don't have to chase every single copy of your stuff all over the place, which you're not going to be able to do anyway. So the less headaches for you.
I agree, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the factors in this decision by the government is that figures showed maybe unlike the States, but figures actually showed that the number of people downloading illegal stuff was just too high to control. So obviously what you do is you control its availability on the web. You don't actually start playing around with the end user.
Do you have Netflix in the UK?
Yes, there's even a Netflix button on my Blu-ray player, which is in a big center position, Netflix, and I keep accidentally pressing it instead of pressing play. It's really annoying because it goes to Netflix.
So is it just too new there? It hasn't really caught on yet?
Oh no, Netflix is very big here. I mean, people are using Netflix too. Okay. But I suspect it's people more on desktops and things who are actually, down, and it's down to the availability. People, even in my RSS feeds in Feedly, every day, I think it's in the section I've got. It's not SL Forum or SL Universe, but there's somebody there who publishes a load of download links to full movies, new movies every day. And, if I wanted to, I could click on them and download them. Right. It's that behavior that's got to be stopped. There has to be something to stop people uploading and then publishing the links so you can go and download it. Because whilst the public who doesn't know what's legal from what's not, they just press a link. You can't blame them.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about the official sites like Netflix, like Hulu, is you get high quality movies. Yeah. You're not going to get any viruses or anything like you can from a random link. So as an end user myself, I love Hulu. I have a subscription to it. I love the legal channels. It is so convenient, and it is. I do like the fact that it's a reasonable price. It does pay for the content. I'm clear, my conscience is clear, and I'm virus free. But I also understand the creator's point of view. So my approach as the editor of Hypergrid Business, my recommendation is it should be the final decision of the creator what permissions they put on their content, what license terms they distribute under, but that I believe it's in the creator's best interest, and this is my advice, is to have as relaxed a license terms, as flexible a permission system as you can possibly make it, and just make your content easy to buy and easy to find. So on the one hand, you can do what you want, and I will fight for your right to do what you want, but on the other hand, maybe you want to do this instead. All right.
Well, I think it's like the artist, the Organic World oil painter or something who puts scans of their work online in a gallery. If you put reasonable resolution JPEGs up there and show off your work, it's not going to affect your sales if somebody downloads a JPEG to keep on the desktop or something. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if you're silly enough to upload a full high-resolution TIFF, apart from the fact it probably take the web page an hour to load, then you've only got yourself to blame if somebody can copy that. One is a promotional device, one is the value added.
Well, that's the other flip side to it. The existence of virtual copies, even excellent copies, does not diminish the value of the original. Yeah. So if you hired me to paint you Mona Lisa, and it was so good that even an expert couldn't tell the difference, the original Mona Lisa will not decrease in value. In fact, the original Mona Lisa and the Starry Night and all these other paintings increase in value as every college student puts a poster on their wall and so
Absolutely.
On. Because it creates public awareness, it creates brand name recognition, and it makes the original that much more unique. You can have a million copies, but only one original.
Yeah.
So it increases the value of the original by comparison.
But I always thought that about the virtual world. If I put the painting up on the wall and people visit my house, well, they did, and see it, the more people that see it and ask me what it is, then, and in fact, they don't even need to. I can embed a hyperlink to the artist's address in the actual picture. So they can click on it and find out, what the original is and maybe buy a print if it's available or find out what gallery has the original. So it is PR. It's PR. There's no copyright infringement in just taking a low resolution copy of an image.
Right.
It's a promotional device. It actually advantages you. So yeah, good point.
And some authors are even finding this to be the case with books, that by releasing the book, the whole book, not a teaser chapter or something like that, but a whole book in electronic format, for some authors, they have found that they're able to create a readership for their books, and a certain percentage of readers will go, wow, this is my favorite author, I will buy all of his books to keep as collector's items or as print copies or for me to hold. So over time, I have been buying fewer and fewer books because I read most of them online. But there's certain books that I prefer to have in print form, and I will buy all the books by that author that comes out in hardcover because I am a fan of that author. So by getting a wider audience, you can get more of these hardcore fans. And the same thing's happening with music, with people being able to reach a bigger audience. They can make more money with concerts, or traditional things.
Speaking of music, it's long been, long before the internet era and MP3s and what have you. The easiest way to sell more copies of an older album was to release a new one. And so the same applies, as far as I can see, to both books and music, regardless of the format. If you take a selection of what you have produced, a book, an album, whatever, and release it free, that it will drive sales of stuff that isn't free. For that, because you're increasing your audience.
I mean, I've got two examples of this going way back, nothing to do with the online world, modern world, but when I was young, I think it was Decca Records particularly used to put out a monthly vinyl album, and it cost pennies. It was really cheap. I forget how much in the time, but it was dirt cheap. You could just buy it out of spare change, and it came out every month, and it would include sometimes the best tracks from all the artists on that label. But of course, it wasn't the whole album. They were called samplers, and you would listen to this album, and then maybe later on there'd be 3 tracks you just fell in love with, and you went out and bought the full album by those artists. And with things like, say, a comic book, for example, if you've got a free magazine on the web that serializes episodes of a comic, and it doesn't cost you anything, you read them, but if you really like it, when it's all over, you will actually want to go and buy the collected graphic novel of the serial. So the myriad ways in which this has always worked, and it's really just transposing those to the electronic world. Anyway, our time is going where it normally does, not down the drain, but rapidly somewhere. Carry on, Maria. What else haven't we covered?
Okay, I will speak faster to get through everything else that was left. Okay, so the other stuff people want is a browser-based viewer, a good voice module, encryption, built-in Hypergrid functionality. Right now you have to write complex scripts. They want more beginner guides with OpenSim documentation, and they want an independent viewer for OpenSim. So if you're a developer out there, these are the things that will make people love you if you work on this stuff, because that's what users want. Indeed. All right. What else? You already mentioned the article by David Burden of Dayton about 5 key differences between virtual worlds and virtual reality. I strongly recommend that people building for virtual reality take a look at that. Really nice there. Kitely donated a fix to the teleport problem where your attachments would fall off while teleporting. They will now stay on. And I think they came out after last week's meeting. ZetaMex is now renting out 15,000 Prim regions for $3 each. So this is the region, the size and performance of a Second Life $300 region for $3 a month. Oh. So I again, now this is a limited time offer. They're testing this out. There's no guarantee that this offer will continue. But anybody who buys one of these regions will have that priced grandfathered in for as long as they want to keep it. And these regions are on OS Grid and on Metropolis Grid. So if you are thinking of checking out OpenSim and have been holding off because $15 a month is too much for you to pay, and setting it up for free on your own computer is just too much of a headache, $3. I mean, who cannot afford $3? So
that's a heck of a deal.
I'm on my way. I am on my way. Listen, I gotta go now.
I
don't want to miss out.
Go to Zetamex.com, and it's under the estates option. Under it's up on the top menu. If you click down on the first one, it's not simulators or grids. It's estates under the OpenSim menu tab. So I just ordered mine. So it takes 12 hours for it to become activated. It's not fully featured. So, for example, with a regular ZetaMax region, you will get instant ORs and IR backups and uploads and all sorts of other self-service web functionality. With this, you can get an OR backup, but you have to request it, and it takes a while. And you don't have any of the other management functionality. But if all you want is a region to have and to hold as your own and to play with and do everything else that you do inside a region, then this is a wonderful, wonderful way to do it. And you can always upgrade it to a bigger region if you want to. And if you get sick of it, you can always export the whole thing to an OR file and shut it down. So there is really zero risk. There are really no reasons for anybody not to try this out.
That is good. I'm actually looking for somewhere to actually build our TV studio on OpenSim. I mean, at that price, can't go wrong.
Go do that. Yes.
And thanks to Venomous Vortex, who happens to be in the SL audience. He's here in Chobo, who gave us the full URL to that deal. Which I think is wonderful. Hopefully somebody's pasting into chat in.
I have the URL up, so I can paste it as well.
Yeah, let's have them.
Thank you. Since I
welcome to
things running at once.
Welcome
to the full URL to the whole thing. Now, ZetaMex is one of the top 2 providers of OpenSim hosting. So they are an extremely well-respected company. They're based in the U.S. They're headquartered in Las Vegas. They're a real company with real people. So it's not a fly-by-night kind of operation. The other the other big name in hosting is Dreamland Metaverse, who are based in the UK. I'm going to try work on them to see if they can match some of these deals with some cool offers too. Get them into a competitive race.
Yeah, well, that should be nice to be hosted on a UK server, I've got to admit.
Well, ZetaMex actually has servers around the world. They do have servers in Europe, and they will put you on a server that's closest to where you are.
Oh, that's always good too.
Yes. That is
just because a company is located in a particular place does not mean that's where their servers are located.
Yeah. But it does mean that if you're in the U.S. and you want U.S.-based support in English, that this is a good thing for you to go to, as opposed to, say, a company based, I don't know, out of Singapore or Malaysia or something.
Who's chronically asleep at the time you happen to be awake.
But there are also other hosting providers in Spain, in Brazil, in the UK, in Germany, and so forth, that might be a better fit for somebody who's based in that particular country.
Yeah. Mind you,
right.
Citimat still sounds good. Let me just say...
Back channel Venomous has indicated he's a developer at ZetaMax.
Okay, I was just about to welcome him or her to the audience. We don't normally have a live audience here, so wonderful to see you. Thank you for those contributions. You are going out live on TV, I hasten to add, in case you're wondering why we're blabbering to ourselves here. Right. Yeah, I have another question. Oh, yeah, anything from Yo-Yo Grid this week?
Well, just the latest is that they're still shut down, and I haven't heard anything from them since.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
They're on the they're on the downward bit of the spiral. They're going to pop upwards again.
I'm sure they'll pop up. I'm sure they'll pop up very, very soon. All right.
Okay. Now, while this was going on, Pet's actually saying please ignore that last post a bit further back. I did put a link into channel chat to the Hypergrid blogspot.co.uk. That is a destination blog for OpenSim. That particular blog is one that just came out this week on shopping and art at Steampunk Z. It seems to be more of an exhibition than a shopping experience, and I can't quite see offhand which grid it's located on, but if you go to that blog you can get all the details. And it opened on Friday, but it's clearly an ongoing. It's on OS Grid, and the region is called Steampunk Z, like a Z, or one word, although Z is a capital. So that's on OS Grid, so sort of stick that in. And while I've got it open, Ziki Questy's blog, which is the next link that's heading over. This is a... hang on, is that the right... no, it's going to put the... You've done it again, haven't I? Right, copy. I just repeated the previous one. Right, Ziki Questy, here we are.
Need new mice.
Yeah, the new link's coming out. This is a post, it's a Second Life post saying somewhere in Second Life. That's all it says. But in fact, opening today, at the same time as this show went on air, is an exhibition at the Rose Theatre and Art Gallery. And it's an exhibition of photography by Where Are My Glasses? No, there isn't an avatar called Where Are My Glasses, but given the print of this, Wu Wai Chun. Yes. And the exhibition is entitled Somewhere in Second Life. Nice looking pictures, so I'd add that one in.
Okay.
Second Life.
So I only have one last little bit of news to add this week, and that there's a new virtual platform coming out called Seek. That's CEEK. I posted a link to their press release. It's from a company called Eon Reality. They do an Eon Cube, which is a holodeck kind of system with giant screens all around you.
They've been around for quite a while. Eon Reality.
It's an old company. They do these high-end kind of things, and they join forces with Next Galaxy, which creates content for virtual worlds, and they're building a new virtual reality platform for events, for performances. It seems to be like a competitor to Rift Max, which we talked about last week, which is a virtual reality platform for holding meetings, events, and performances and watching movies in a group. So it doesn't seem to be a competitor to a world where you have user-generated content. It seems to be more of a channel for communicating out, rather as opposed to a channel for building things collaboratively.
I think we're going to see. I'm already dreading it. Really, I think we're going to see a lot of this. Immersive spaces that are literally being brought online, probably quite quickly in some cases.
We will see a lot of it.
Yeah, capitalize on Oculus and stuff.
Now, the thing is that these guys are going to be spending a ton of money promoting these things and teaching people how to use these things. And they are all potential customers for us. Because at a certain point, somebody's going to say, well, yeah, this was very nice. Now I want to build my own virtual world. And that's when they come here to us at OpenSim. Yeah. That's what I'm keeping my eye on. And that is it for me.
And, of course, it's not just wanting to come and build your own, but also the increase in audience when you're on the Hypergrid and things like that. So, suppose, because even with maps, you've got to download it. It's not something that appears out of magic. If you're going to download something, have it multifunctional, like a Hypergrid viewer. So, yes, indeed. Okay, well, one more link from me, which I think will be posted in. We're all out of order today. This is another one that popped up. I don't even know this blog, but it appeared through my Fashionista feed. But it's just called New Destinations August Week 1. It's a blog about some destinations in Second Life. And if you follow that link, basically, it has some very nice pictures. And therefore, nice destinations, if you see what I mean. So always keen on looking at nice new exotic places. That looks like it. And, oh great, Opera is not responding. So I think we're finished there. Right, okay. Well, thanks for all that. I think it's about time we did our sort of scan around everybody. Let me move on over to Petlove, who's dutifully filming this at the same time as multitasking and whatever, and joining the chat. Anything new coming up, exciting, etc., for the week gone by, etc., from Petlove?
Well, I'm getting my apartment painted. I've had house guests all week. My place is totally torn apart, but that's real life, not Second Life. There are the usual machinimas in progress. Happy Hunting is once again going to be expanding its format, theoretically, pretty soon. And that's about expanding as opposed to contracting. You mean it's getting longer again? Who knows? We'll have to see which way the dice fall. But we might, possibly.
It wouldn't surprise me. There's an awful lot of hunts, We should just should just do it 15 minutes daily, I think.
Sure, why not? And we'll get you to host it, Mal.
I can always, give me an excuse to go on the hunt. Yeah, I'll guest host one or something. I don't know. I'll host the Hypergrid hunt, happy Hypergrid hunting.
That has a nice ring to it. I like that idea.
Yeah, we'll call it Hypergrid hunting.
Sure. Yeah, but no, I don't really have anything earth-shaking. Just the usual. Keeping on, Yeah. Enjoying the virtual world.
Don't we all? Yeah. So computers and fiber optics and everything else be damned. We keep on keeping on. Right. Okay. Nothing else, Maria, I guess, or anything. Obviously, people check out hypergridbusiness.com for all of the latest news every day. But anything else, Maria, apart from...
No, just reminding them that if you want your grid to be listed, if you want me to write about you, let me know who you are, please. I do not have magical ESP that tells me where things are happening. I find out about things because people send me email, and they send it to me at maria@hypergridbusiness.com.
I've got one for you, Maria. Amaretta Breedables is having their annual birthday bash. This year it'll be September 1st, which is a Monday. And
an open soon?
In Second Life.
Oh.
Does that not, do you not cover Second Life? I know you do.
I cover Second Life business and like business models.
Okay, but not these type of events.
Not Inworld stuff. There's
too much of it.
There's too much of it, and everybody else already covers it. The reason I cover an OpenSim is because nobody's covering it.
They do have a presence in OpenSim, I think, don't they? On OS Grid, rather. So I'll try to talk them into coming to your favorite sim and maybe establishing themselves there and having a birthday bash there too. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will definitely write it up if they come to OpenSim, especially if they come to like Hypergrid or set up their own grid. What I really want people to do, especially breathable people, if you're a breathable person listening to me, listen to this. You set up your own grid where the functionality isn't in the object, isn't in the breathable object. The functionality is in a server-side module. Nobody can copy your stuff because it runs server-side. So, for example, people might have to come back to your grid in order for the animals to breed. So you can take them to your home grid, you can play with them, but if they breed, you have to bring them back to the home country, where they spawn back to where they come from. So your customers are going to keep coming back to you. They're going to keep experiencing your grid. You're going to be on a hypergrid. You're going to have access to the 10,000 people out there on the hypergrid and growing. And it's a brand new market. You will have no competition. And because everything is running server side, the people can steal the animal itself, but they can't steal the functionality because all of that.
I back at the Second Life birthday build, I was chatting to a woman called Callie Klein, who is behind all the Tara can tell you all the kitty cats. And I actually plan to get her on this show one week because one of the unique things about them, in discussion terms, is that everything is run from a back end. Although we see it all in Second Life, it's databases and back-end servers and stuff that actually run the operation. And as far as I know, she hasn't actually deployed it onto any other grid or stuff. But I was quite interested to hear more about from her on the technical side, because it sounds like the sort of system that could be deployed elsewhere. I don't think if she had the market for it, or if anybody else was working on a similar thing. So.
Well, I think
it's safe to say that virtually all breedables are done using external servers.
Right. The thing is that with OpenSim, it's not just the data about the breedable that you can store externally. You can actually, with an OpenSim module, you can create new in-world functionality that doesn't exist on any other grid, just on your grid. So,
Oyo, that just launched Dodos here in Second Life, is also on OpenSim. And they have horses. And I think they have cats coming. Yeah.
Oh well, that we won't.
Are they in Inworld?
I would have to go check, and I don't have I don't have a browser open to give you the particulars, but I know that they are on OpenSim somewhere.
Okay.
Well, OpenSim would imply. Well, I suppose it could be in Worlds, but
I'll look it up.
I'll have a look in OS Grid next time I'm in there. That tends to.
Yeah, I'll check their website the next time I have a browser open. So.
Thank you.
Right.
But they are definitely somewhere in OpenSim.
Yeah. Now, the other thing to remind you all of is, of course, as Maria hasn't mentioned this week, but we must, and that is that coming up in November, of course, is the OpenSim Community Conference. Every week that passes by, it gets nearer, so it's not that far off, although you will have to suffer Halloween before the OpenSim conference. However, if you would like to partake in the OpenSim conference, do get in touch. They're looking, I think officially the date for presentations has passed, but if you've got something you want to present about or whatever, I'm sure they'd be interested. They're still looking for volunteers, everything from sort of people to stand there and point you in the right direction to camera men and women and all that sort of stuff too. So that's coming up in November, and it's going to be far bigger than last year, and last year was pretty darn huge. So I mean, it's going to be a very big event, and probably the central focus of the year for everything to do with the Hypergrid and OpenSim. So
and donations too. We're happy to accept donations.
Oh yes.
Remember that last year's conference resulted in 1,000 different improvements and bug fixes to OpenSim. Because of the intensive development, testing, and coordination between the viewers and the server developers that resulted, including a fix to the infamous Hypergrid teleport bug, which everybody hated, that was thought to be intractable. They got together and they fixed it. So if you donate to this conference, you will be donating to helping OpenSim become a lot more stable, a lot more robust, a lot more resilient. So it's a very, very good cause. Plus, you get, some recognition for your grid or for your company or your organization for sponsoring the conference.
Okay. And further to that, we were talking extensively last week about the Hypergrid Safari. There is a new one started up at the same time the show is on today, actually on Sundays, which is sort of weekend afternoon, noon Sundays, which is really just to address some people who can't get into the weekday evening American audience. But the original one still takes place on Wednesdays at noon SLT. And it starts on OS Grid, and I'm always trying to make a point of getting to that. So if you want to join us for that, log into OS Grid, or indeed Hypergrid into OS Grid, and search for my name, Mal Burns. Nothing fancy, just Mal Burns, and I will endeavour to TP you over to it. So that happens on Wednesdays, and we seem to be getting more and more things in every week. It usually goes on for about 3 or 4 hours, so be warned, you will experience lots of facets of the Hypergrid, and it's a fun thing too. It's the focus is on having fun and adventure and stuff rather than totally serious. So good way to explore the Hypergrid if you can make it. Right. Okay. Any other closing thoughts, Tara?
Nothing other than the fact that I'm looking forward to new hardware and being able to get Inworld and not be worried if I'm gonna crash in 5 minutes.
We didn't have to use Flat Tara after all.
Yeah, Flat Tara is. Yes, but you can have your. I think I set that anybody can copy it, so you can have your very own Flat Tara if you want.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, everybody, TP over to Chilbo in Second Life immediately, and come to our stage, and look at the left-hand side of the stage, and get your own free copy of Flat Tara. It's
Farrah
not even
Fawcett, eat your heart out.
Yeah. When people have taken 1,000 copies, maybe Tara will close it down and call it a limited edition. And that way you'll have premium value attached to it.
Right.
You nothing.
Right.
That's the beauty of freebies. If they're limited editions, they actually become valuable. Yes, that's another intriguing marketing ploy there. Right. Okay. Well, since we're talking to people coming in, I don't say this very often, but for those of you watching here, especially if you're interested, you're doing interesting projects and, that are promoting the metaverse and, best practices in virtual worlds and all that, be it in Second Life or be it on the Hypergrid or preferably both even, who knows? If you want to pitch in, take part in this conversation, just get in touch, because we're always looking for new people to come in and chat every week. And, maybe you just want to join the chat about general issues, or maybe you've got something you want to promote. And as long as it's not disastrously commercial, and we're not free advertising, then you'll be most welcome to pop in here. So do let us know if you fancy it out. It's nice to get new faces in here from time to time as well. And that's it, I think. That's everything we've got to say. Hopefully we'll have more news and gossip and everything else for you next week. Same time, same place. If you want to view this program in replay at any time, or indeed any of our previous shows, just hop along to slartist.com. That's SLARTIST. And you can see our show and practically every other show going, and lots of machinima and everything on demand. And you can get it on your Android tablet, your iPad, and virtually every device, basically, that supports HTML5. So you're away there. The hub where all the important videos is stored, hopefully in perpetuity, in good old high resolution too, far better than what you see on the screen here at Livestream. So that's it for me, that is indeed it. We'll be back same time, same place, I hope, next week with all our various kit working and avatars functioning and the rest of it. So hope you've enjoyed this show, and we will see you then.